Flosstube. My name is Cyndy Young and I am LuhuStitches. And I guess I might as well explain where Luhu comes from. If you're familiar with Dr. Seuss and The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, you'll recall there is a character named Cyndy Luhu. And when I was in college, I acquired the tag Luhu, and when I decided to start stitching again, which I'll explain that in a minute, I decided that I really liked that. I was trying to figure out, what am I going to call myself on Instagram? What am I going to call myself here on YouTube? And I have a small, extremely small, small Etsy shop called LuhuStitches, where I try and sell my designs, but whatever as far as that goes. So I discovered Flosstube probably a year ago, maybe less than that, and was just intrigued that there were all these people doing cross stitch out there. Where I live, there are not a lot of people doing cross stitch. They quilt and they knit, but I don't know a lot of needleworkers, particularly. If they do it, it might be for a dish towel or something like that. I was astounded when I went to my county fair this last year, and there were literally 4 cross stitch entries, and 3 of them were from the same person. So she did well. She won lots of ribbons. Anyway, and it wasn't me. Anyway, so I thought I would start by answering the Know Your Needlework questions, because it was an easy way to start and let you know who I am. And I've enjoyed watching other people tell me who they are using those questions as well. So I'm going to grab my notebook here. And where do I live? I live, whoops, almost dropped my book. I live at the very top of California. I live in Siskiyou County, and I live in the county seat. So if you feel inspired to grab your map, you'll be able to figure out what that is. And I live right on the Oregon border. So a lot of times we feel more like we're Oregonians than we do Californians, except for the fact that both my husband and I have grown up in California, and all our family ties are further south in California, what we call down below. So anything south of Redding is down below, and that's Southern California for us. So I've even narrowed down the city I live in. Anyway, I don't know why I'm reluctant to tell you what city I live in, but for some reason I am. Anyhow, what do I do for a living? Well, I have been for many years a stay-at-home mom and homeschooled my kids. And before I did that, I was a substitute teacher. And recently, as my younger kids have become teenagers, and we have one in private school and one who's finishing out her high school years here at home, I have gone back to substitute teaching. So I am a substitute teacher. And my husband works in forestry, and we do all that in California, believe it or not. So anyway, we have 3 children. I have a son who is 22, and I have a daughter 16, and we have a daughter we adopted from Uganda who is 14, and it's all very exciting. Anyway, my son is out on his own, and my middle daughter is known as Ollie Rose. She's on YouTube, so if there is actually a teenager watching this, you might want to go check out her channel. And then Gladys is my youngest. My son's name is Isaac. And anyway, do I have pets? Yes, we have a geriatric dog, Labrador Retriever. Her name is Chewy. She was named by my son. She's, I think she's 14 years old. No, she's 13 and a half. She'll be 14 in August. Anyway, when we got her, my son was anticipating getting a chocolate lab, and he was going to name her Chewy Chocolate. And we ended up with a white chocolate lab. So we have a yellow lab, and he still liked the name Chewy. And it has, I don't think he chose it particularly because of Star Wars, although he's a big Star Wars fan. But that wasn't why he chose the name, although that's what everybody thinks. And she lived up to her name and still lives up to her name. And we have to be so careful about leaving things out because she will eat them and chew them up. Chewy. That's her name. Oh, and then we have two cats. We have Violet and Rosie. And one is a white cat who drinks from the bathroom faucet, and the other one is a calico. And none of them are around me today. So, oh well. What hobbies do I enjoy besides stitching? I enjoy gardening. So we're trying to get our garden going. We have a few things coming up, the onions mainly. And I draw. My background is in graphic design. And that's what I studied at school. I was a coloring major. Anyway, I always think that's a funny joke. Nobody ever laughs. Anyway, and I like to crochet. The other women in my family quilt and are constantly trying to get me to start quilting, but I think my husband would have a heart attack. And I love my husband, and I don't want him to have a heart attack. I don't need another hobby. So I cross stitch. My history, I might as well go, I was going to say, well, no, I'll finish the questions first. Okay. Anyway, what is my favorite movie? I had a really hard time deciding, but I would say anything from Pixar. I love Pixar movies. Probably my favorite one is Cars. And then my next favorite is the Toy Story series, because when my son was 2 weeks old, we took him to see Toy Story 1, which it was just Toy Story at the time. And then about the time he was graduating from high school, they came out with Toy Story 3, and he was getting ready to leave home. And I bawled my eyes out at the end of that. And I'm really curious what Toy Story 4 is going to be like, but I'm hoping they haven't overdone it. So far, I haven't really seen a bad Pixar movie. Maybe some that I'm not as inspired by. But so the Toy Story series and Cars, the Cars series are probably my favorite. And then Ratatouille. So, you take me to a Pixar movie and I'll be happy. Really. I just am like that. I don't know. Favorite TV show. So I probably, it's a toss-up between Miss Marple with Joan Hickson and the Poirot series with David Suchet. But anything, I like Midsummer Murders. We have an Acorn subscription. We have a BritBox subscription. Anything British where they're killing people. I like it. Not like the police type dramas. More the cozy murders. That's what I like. Anyway, and if it's British. I also like to watch Escape to the Country and dream of moving to Great Britain. I live in California. I don't know. Anyway, my favorite book is Discipleship by Elizabeth Elliot. Elizabeth Elliot is probably one of my favorite authors of all time. She's inspired me in my faith and in my walk, my everyday walk, and in my family life. And so I do really like Elizabeth Elliot, and my favorite book of hers is Discipleship. So go find it. It's really good. My favorite kind of music is jazz. I like cool jazz and big band jazz. When I say cool jazz, I mean like Vince Guaraldi and, the Charlie Brown theme and, that kind of piano type stuff. My husband hates it, so I just listen to it when he's not home. And then occasionally on a road trip, if I'm driving, it's like driver picks, so we listen to jazz. Or, you know, there's road trip music, and recently my daughter and I, Olivia and I did a road trip, and we found on Spotify a playlist called Songs to Sing in the Shower. That was absolutely great. It was a perfect road trip. There were only a couple songs that we skipped, and so if you have Spotify, look for Songs in the Shower. Good road trip. I would never play it in the shower. I play jazz when I'm in the shower. So the last question is one word to describe me. And I was like, I have no idea. So I asked my daughter, who is currently on a road trip with her youth group. And I just asked her, but then she asked the rest of the group. And I was just incredibly touched because these kids they're pretty amazing kids. I am so blessed that my daughter has such amazing friends. And anyway, so they said things like spool, which means super cool, legit. I'm legit. Anyway, awesome, welcoming, kind-hearted, nurturing, and creative. I'm like, wow. I mean, I love these kids, and I've known that a lot of them most of their lives, but I didn't realize that they had actually formed an opinion about me or had an impression of me. And it made me feel really good that they did. And that, you know, some of them I have more of a relationship with than others, and it's just neat. I had to not tear up, you know, right before I'm doing this. Anyway, I need my notes. So I had started to talk about kind of my history with needlework, and I started stitching when I first got married. My mom had been stitching for a while, and she'd been trying to get me to do that, but I was a graphic design major at California State University, Chico, and I didn't have time for those kinds of things because I was a snobby little design student. And but what happened when I got done with school was I didn't get a job in design. I was one of those huge percentage of people who never work in their major. And so I got, went to work in the medical field as a receptionist and secretary and medical records person and all of that, and met my husband, and we got married, and he got a job way up here at the top of California 26 years ago. I thought, oh, we're just going to live here for a couple of years and then we'll move back down to California, and it never happened, which is okay. I'm okay with that. At any rate, and we got up here, and I got very homey and crafty because I didn't have a job, and I learned to bake bread and make jelly and can things, and at that time, toll painting was kind of a big deal, so I learned how to toll paint and actually had a little craft business for a while, going to craft shows selling, cute little wooden painted things, and also took up cross stitch. I found this pattern in a Better Homes and Gardens magazine, and it was really cute, and I'll have to show it to you next time. It's hanging on the wall just right over here. But it's behind glass, and it's huge, and it's hard to get down. Anyway, I was like, Mom, she was up visiting. Mom, I want to learn how to do this. She was like, yay! I'm sorry, she was just excited. Anytime my sister or I expressed interest in anything textile-y. Anyway, so I learned how to cross stitch and really got into it, and it was at a time when that really awesome cross stitch and needlework magazine was coming out, and I took a subscription to that for a good few years, and but then I had children and had to start substitute teaching because it actually made more money than going to craft fairs, and when you have a baby, you don't go to craft fairs, and it was before the internet, so I couldn't sell anything on Etsy because Etsy didn't exist. And anyway, but I cross-stitched off and on throughout the years, and then a few years ago, I thought, well, you know, the kids are getting older and I don't have to plan 3 people's education out every day. And I, you know, my son was graduated and my one daughter's kind of on autopilot. She knows what she's doing. And then we had decided that my youngest daughter, we were going to put her in a small private Christian school here in town. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with my time when I'm not substituting? Because I only sub 1 or 2 days a week. And I thought, oh, you know, cross stitch would be really nice. I didn't really want to get back into painting. And so I thought cross stitch would be nice, but I didn't know anybody. I still don't know anybody who cross stitches, particularly. I have a few friends that do a lot of different needlework and crocheting and knitting and quilting. And I think a few of them will admit to having done cross stitch at one time in their lives. Anyway, so I thought, you know, it'd be fun. I had been designing a few things right before my son was born, and I still had those, and so I pulled those out and I finished one of them and thought, well, you know, I knew about Etsy, and I thought, well, what do you do? So I started designing and have been designing a little bit. I really don't have much. I really don't feel like I have honed my style yet, but I have a few things on Etsy, and I will post the link down below here if you're interested in looking at those. I'm going to show you a couple things today, which brings me to, I should probably show you some things. So I'm going to start with my latest stitch acquisitions. I haven't bought anything in a long time, and lately I've been watching people like Priscilla and Chelsea and Kindred Stitcher and Cathy Habermann at Hands On Design, and Vonna Pfeiffer, and lots of you ladies, too many to really name all, but I know a lot of people know who they are. Priscilla and Chelsea in particular, you're very inspiring and enabling, I have to tell you. Anyway, and I had never bought fancy floss before. I'd never, well, I had stitched, I have a couple of really, I call them my ancient whips that are on linen. I'll show those to you sometime. But today, I'm just going to show you my haul because I was down at my mom's and there is an LNS down there. Yay! Because, so my closest LNS, I either go north an hour and a half, which I don't really have many reasons to go north an hour and a half, or I go down to my mom's house, which is 5 hours away. And actually, I make it to that LNS way more than I do the one that's closer. But and then I found 123 Stitch and down Sunshine Lane. So my husband doesn't know some of the stuff I bought. Don't tell him. Not that you would. Anyway, so recently bought at Kelsey's Needle Crafts in Placerville, California. I'm going to pull it out of the bag because it's got a lot of reflection. This Cricket Collection spring, and I just love it. I love the colors. I love bright pastels. I think, though, that I will do it on a very light colored or white fabric of some kind. I kind of like that Monaco. That's what Priscilla's done. And then I also got this. It's also a Cricket Collection, and I just love those. They're so pretty. I like the flowers and the bunny, and they're small. I think I can actually finish one. I'm the slowest stitcher in the world. Flannel Farm Girl, Flannel. I'm sorry. I can't remember. She was saying she was the slowest, and we might have a tortoise race sometime and see who's slower, which isn't good for somebody who's designing and trying to sell her stuff on Etsy. Anyway, and then I got this. from 123 Stitch in the mail just recently, along with some threads that I'll show you in a minute. And I was born in June. I really want the April one. That's my unicorn pattern that I want. I've seen it on, somebody on Instagram was stitching it. Priscilla had it displayed on her blog. I love April. And I don't want to pay $22 for it. I did find it for $22 on eBay, but I'm like, anyway, I may never get it. I don't know. And then I got this. Here's another Priscilla enabling one. I saw this and I just had to. It's so adorable. Brenda Gervais, Easter Parade. I would like to get these spring ones done by next year so that I could display them in my house. That would be nice. I would like that. Anyway, and then the other thing that I got, this kind of segues into my whips. I got Plum Street Sampler Wilhelmina. This was at Kelsey's. And I just love that. And I started stitching it last night. Well, this is my first big haul of like fancy floss. Well, maybe not my first. I have one I have a project kitted up. Anyway, Classic Colorworks. And these are all the Classic Colorworks that you need. Well, not this one, because that's Gentle Arts. And so's this. That's Gentle Arts too. And I don't remember what I bought those for. Anyway, but these are all for Wilhelmina. And then the rest are DMC flosses. But they're just beautiful. And so I got started last night on Wilhelmina. And I got started on Wilhelmina. There she is. I'm a center starter for the most part. I kind of do everything, but for the most part, I do have like things that I tend to do. So I tend to be a center starter. I use a hoop most of the time. I didn't always. When I started stitching, I stitched in hand. But when I came back to stitching, because my eyesight had changed and I needed magnification on top of the glasses, it's a lot easier to see, especially on even weave and linen, where I'm stitching if I have it in a hoop. So, yeah. Anyway, my other works in progress that I've had going for a while is I started this last September, Country Cottage Needleworks September, and I've got the house done. Told you, slow stitcher. Part of my problem is I start stuff. I like to start things. I'm not so good at finishing, but I start them very well. And then I have Satsuma Street, Pretty Little San Francisco, that I've been working on for my sister for a long time now. It's probably one of the first patterns I bought when I got back into stitching was this, and it was a PDF download. And I know some people work off of their and I'm not so good about taking my stuff out of the hoop either, as you can see. What was I saying? Oh, PDFs. I know some people work on their tablets or something, but I like paper. It makes me feel better. And I can mark it up and all kinds of stuff. So, and then this is, I started this at Thanksgiving, and this is a pattern that actually comes out of, how many of you remember For the Love of Cross Stitch? I discovered this in the early 2000s, and then they folded not long after that. But this, they did a whole series. They have a whole series of these. Sorry, it's hard. It's kind of like the camera sees it opposite. Anyway, so I started with this one, but there's spring and summer and winter. And I hope to get it done. So it's a pretty quick stitch. And I work on it periodically. I rotate, but there's no plan to my rotation. I just kind of do what I stitch what I feel like stitching if I'm not stitching my own stuff. Anyway, so, oh, and then, so I was at Kelsey's and I'm talking to the owner, Sue, and telling her how much I hate DMC black. I know a lot of us do. I haven't actually tried this yet, but she suggested getting Splendor. It's a 12-ply silk black, and I did, and I'm going to give it a try and see how I like it. I'll have to use it on Wilhelmina, I think, and I'm looking forward to trying it because it feels really nice, and it's kind of exciting. I've never stitched with silk. I've always stitched with cotton floss, and you know. Anyway, okay, so let's see. That was my haul and my works in progress. What was I going to do next? Sorry. Oh, okay. So so I wanted to show you some of what I do. I love all of I love it all. I love all the things and would love to stitch all the things. But when I design, I'm really amazed that I have a very different, what I design is really different from what I choose to buy and stitch. Anyway, so one of my first things that I designed was this alphabet, and it's kind of modern, and it made me remember kind of my childhood. I'm a child of the 70s, and pink and orange as a combination colors, and then blue and green were make that look better. There we go. They were just combination colors, but I love them. They're bright and happy. They're bright and happy colors. And anyway, I made this one into a pillow. I do this sort of envelope pillow thing because I like to be able to take my pillow covers off and be able to wash them. And this one lives on my bed and it's surprisingly in good shape considering my husband, when he lays down, sticks it under his head. Anyway, he's very good. He turns the stitching over. I think you should use your stuff or hang it up. I'm not very good at that stuff. I got a tongue lashing for a quilt that I have hanging in the other room. Anyway, from my mom. Anyway, and then this. And then I have some others, and I'll probably show those as I go along. And then I wanted to show you some things that I'm working on. So I also like to do chalk drawings, and I recently discovered Redbubble and have a few of products on Redbubble that use my chalk drawings. You can kind of pick and choose that. And so this is one that I made for my daughter who goes to school. Both my girls go to school. One stays home and goes to school, and one goes to school. Anyway, she had Valentine's that she needed, and so I did 6 drawings, chalk drawings, and then took pictures of them and then put them on. Did some editing, photo editing, and printed them out on my printer for her. So they made 3x3 cards. If you're interested in them, you can go to my blog, which I'll have a link below, and you can print those off for free. Anyway, so I decided that these would also make really good cross-stitch patterns. So I started one, not this one yet. I want to do this one because of the bee. Bees are cute, as long as they don't sting me. And they're important, very important. We live in an agricultural area. I've grown up in an agricultural area my whole life, and bees are extremely important to our living. If you don't believe me, go see the bee movie, Seinfeld. So this is what I'm stitching right now and designing. There's more to it. Anyway, you can't see much, so. Anyway, I don't have the original anymore. I gave the original away for an auction for my daughter's school. So I don't have the original. But this is kind of what I'm into right now. I don't know. That's why I say I'm really having a hard time with style. I mean, this and this are a lot different from this and this. I don't know. If you have an opinion, gently give it to me. Use nice words and give me your opinion. Anyway, so that's kind of all that I wanted to do. I'm just enjoyed watching Flosstube so much and really decided I wanted to join the conversation. I mentioned some Flosstubers who I've been watching. Cyndy's Cross Stitch is another one who she is just such a gentle and sweet spirited person. I've been watching Beth Twist at Heartstring Samplery. And who else? Rabbit Trail Stitcher, and I don't know. I suppose I should at least write a little thing saying who I mentioned below. I would, encourage you to go watch those gals and support one another. And if you like what you saw today, please give me a thumbs up. I guess if you didn't like it, you can give me a thumbs down, but use nice words. And I look forward to doing more of these. I don't know how often I'm going to do them, at least once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks. Sort of depends on how much I'm able to get done. I've had a couple weeks off recently because of spring breaks, but we're coming up on the end of school, and for some reason they just need lots of substitute teachers the last couple months of school. I really don't know why, but that's when I get the bulk of my work. So I'll see how much stitching I'm able to get done in between sub dates, and then maybe get a floss tube in here and there. So thank you for joining me. Thank you to everyone who does Flosstube, to everyone who watches Flosstube. I think it's a great, I don't know, great thing. And it's exciting to know that there are still stitchers out there, and that there is a stitching community, and it's really fun. So thank you, and happy stitching.